Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere steamy literally. You're standing outside a Roman bathhouse just after dusk, and the air smells like hot limestone and fennel crushed underfoot. The sky above is bruised purple, the last light smearing behind a crooked row of terracotta roofs. A few oil lamps flicker beside the tall, fluted doorway, barely enough to light your path, but just enough to promise mystery. Inside, it's warmer already. Steam curls lazily from the cracks in the stone, seeping out like breath from a dragon's nostrils. You probably won't survive this, by the way not as a Roman citizen, not with your soft modern feet and no tolerance for communal sweat. But don't worry, you're not here to survive. You're here to wander. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening in from somewhere unique, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you all drift off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You duck through the archway. There's no door, just a yawning stone mouth filled with fog and the scent of human effort wet wool, eucalyptus resin, and something like vinegar left in the sun. Your sandals slap softly on the mosaic floor, each step tapping out a rhythm older than memory. The atrium is cavernous, echoing. You can't tell if it's the mist making the space feel infinite, or the chorus of shifting voices bouncing off polished stone. They rise and fall like waves, and just when you think they've died down, they surge again. Laughter, moans, the sharp splash of water on marble. Your breath fogs in front of you. You reach out, touching the wall for balance. It's slick with condensation. You catch the curve of a painted nymph beneath your palm, her eyes faded, her smile eternal. The floor glitters beneath puddles. You nearly slip. Be careful your knees aren't what they used to be, even in this fantasy. A slave boy rushes past with a towel draped over one bony shoulder and a silver pitcher steaming in his hands. He doesn't meet your eyes. None of them do. These places were open to everyone, so history claims. Rich or poor, senator or beggar, man or woman. Though in truth, the baths had layer zones only the powerful dared drift into, and others where you, the average Roman citizen, were better off unseen. You follow the sound of water trickling from a lion-headed spout into a collecting pool. It reminds you of a hotel lobby fountain, but alive, breathing, echoing in a way that gets into your bones. The walls are lined with benches and little niches where guests have stashed sandals and tunics. You shed your own, feeling the cool pull of air against your skin. There's something freeing about it. Or maybe just uncomfortably drafty. The atrium's central dome is painted, faint now from years of vapor, but you can still make out the outline of Neptune with a trident, and dolphins frolicking around him like drunken guests. Historians still argue whether some of these scenes were innocent decoration or pointed symbols of what went on after dark. The lines blur. They always did. A soft thud behind you. Someone dropped a bronze strigil. You turn, heart skipping. It's just another bather, his back furrowed like worn leather, his hands pink from the scrub. He nods. You nod back. That's the rule. Eyes down, mouth shut. The air is so damp, it clings to your chest like a cold shroud, and your scalp begins to prickle from the heat trapped overhead. Still, you shiver. You can't tell if it's from nerves or some deeper intuition, the kind you can't explain with history books. You catch whispers from two men behind a partition speaking low Latin, too fast to follow, something about the senator's boy and after the lights go out. You're not meant to hear that. In the corner, a woman with silver pins in her hair reclines on a cushion. Her robes slip to one shoulder, revealing a tattoo delphinus, the dolphin, a mark used by some who worked unofficially in these public temples of heat. She meets your gaze and smiles like she already knows what you came here to find. Bathhouses were daily rituals, but they were never just about hygiene. Clean bodies, yes, but also dirty deals. You could eavesdrop on politics, negotiate marriages, or arrange assassinations between steamings. There's a statue near the center of the room, Hercules, flexing absurdly, his bronze muscles polished to a shine from years of being touched, or worshipped, or both. Some visitors believe that rubbing his foot would bring luck. You try it. It's cold. Somehow colder than everything else in the room, as if the metal remembers a world beyond the steam. Even here, where heat and bodies and breath mix freely, you feel the undercurrent. Something in the walls. Not malice, not danger, just attention. You're being watched, not by people, but by the space itself. The way a casino knows when you're on a losing streak. A burst of laughter draws your gaze to the far side. A group of youths, all gold chains and careless limbs, lounge like lizards on the warm bench. One of them flicks water from his wrist, watching the droplets arc through the air like fireflies before they vanish. He sees you, winks. You look away. They say Rome was built on power, but it was held together by rituals like this. The shared breath, the communal sweat, the illusion of equality when you're all naked under the same roof. Just then, the fog shifts and reveals a doorway tucked behind a curtain of woven reeds. The fabric ripples slightly, beckoning. Your feet itch. The tiles beneath you hum with residual warmth, and you find yourself moving forward not because you know what's next, but because you have to know. And just as you part the reeds, a gust of roasted heat blasts your face, drawing sweat from your forehead in a single instant, and the heat swallows you whole. You step through, and suddenly it's as if the entire floor is breathing beneath you. The caldarium is alive. The walls sweat, the ceiling trickles, and the tiles beneath your toes. They throb with warmth, radiating from deep below. This is where Rome hides its magic under the surface, as always. The hypercaust system. You've read about it in textbooks, maybe saw a diagram once, all labelled cross-sections and tidy Latin. But standing here barefoot, half naked, already damp, it feels less like engineering and more like sorcery. The floor is floating on a web of hollow bricks, and deep in the belly of the building, fires are fed by slaves who haven't seen sunlight in weeks. That heat rises gently, methodically until it settles beneath your soles like a sleeping animal. It's not just warm, it thrums, like the heartbeat of some ancient, unseen god. And you, tiptoeing across it, are suddenly more aware of your feet than you've ever been. The way your arches strain, the prickle along your toes. You're walking on fire's breath, and it tickles. A woman passes you, skin slick as a seal's, her hair tied in a knot that's come half undone. She leaves wet footprints that steam as they vanish. You follow the prints, as if they'll lead you to a secret. The air here is thicker than outside. Less mist, more fog soup. It coats your throat, settles in your lashes. You feel it on your tongue, faintly metallic, like you've licked the rim of a bronze cup. That, or someone's been bleeding into the Walsan image you immediately regret but can't quite shake. The benches along the sides are made of marble, but they're hot, not warm hot. You test one with the side of your hip and flinch. You wonder if ancient Romans developed special calluses for this. Probably. You're not built for this world. Your skin is too soft. Your modern comforts too many. A bored-looking attendant motions toward a bucket of water and a ladle. You lift it, pour a stream over your shoulders. It hisses when it touches the bench below, and a puff of fresh steam coils upward, bringing with it the smell of basil, myrrh, and something darker like burnt hair. That smell? You'll learn it's not from some aromatic oil. It's your body, reacting to the heat, shedding its outer layers. And yes, that includes your dignity. The caldarium is a sensory overload. There's always motion, limbs shifting, steam drifting, voices murmuring. But underneath it all is the thrum, the pulse of the hypercaust. A soundless vibration that seeps into your bones and makes your joints feel loose, like wet rope. Mainstream historians agree, this system was revolutionary. The Romans weren't just heating rooms, they were heating experience, creating stages for pleasure and performance. And then there's the fringe theory, the kind whispered at conferences after too many glasses of wine, that the hypercaust was also a status symbol, not just in function, but in who got to feel its warmth first. Some claim that wealthy patrons bribed bathhouse attendants to stoke the flames early in the morning, so by the time they arrived, the marble would already be piping hot. Everyone else? They got the lukewarm leftovers. You slide along the wall now, back pressed to the wet tiles. You feel each bump, each chipped bit of mosaic. One tile shows a satyr leap, eyes gleaming, tongue out. Another shows a woman, draped in red, holding grapes in one hand and a curved blade in the other. A man nearby groans not in pain, but in deep, Animal pleasureers, an attendant scrubs his back with a bundle of laurel twigs. The sound is somewhere between a purr and a howl. You make a mental note. Don't moan like that in public. Or do. This is Rome. Your skin is beginning to flush. Redness blooming along your arms, your chest, the tops of your feet. It's the heat, yes, but also the closeness. The humidity is so thick, your breath feels borrowed. And here's the scholarly debate for the night. Some argue that caldariums weren't just for relaxation, they were meant to disorient, to loosen tongues. You weren't just sweating out toxins, you were sweating out secrets. Business deals struck mid-scrub, affairs arranged under the fog, betrayals hinted at between ladles of water. You wonder how many conspiracies were born here, how many friendships melted like wax under this same heat. There's a small hole in the wall near your knee, barely the size of a coin. You lean down, curious. The smell changes sharper, smokier. That's the prefernium on the other side, the fire chamber. You imagine a boy there, half naked, blackened with soot, feeding logs into the dragon's mouth. You're warm because he burns. That's Rome for you. And your own body? It's starting to respond. Your shoulders slump, your calves loosen. That ever-present ache in your lower back, the one you blame on your chair, your mattress, your life begins to fade. You feel heavy, not sleepy exactly, but softened, melted like cheese left on a windowsill. In the far corner, two women whisper behind towels. Their laughter is sharp, slicing through the fog. One of them gestures toward a man across the rumour merchant by the look of his ring and mouths, something that makes the other snort into her palm. It's easy to forget these people lived real lives. That gossip wasn't invented on Instagram. You sit now, carefully. The bench still stings your thighs, but you've learned to endure it. That's part of the pleasure suffering, just enough to feel reborn afterward. And just as your eyes begin to droop, lulled by heat and rhythm and the distant drip, drip, drip of condensation falling into stone basins, a new sound cuts through the haze. A long scrape, the metal ring of a strigil being sharpened. It's time to oil up. The strigil gleams like a crescent moon dipped in bronze. You're standing now, barely, swaying a little like seaweed in a slow current. The world is syrupy. Your skin feels slick, your hair curls at the edges, and your spine hums with leftover heat from the hypercost. You shuffle toward the next room, narrower, quieter. The air shifts again. No more oppressive steam, just a soft, syrupy warmth and the faint clink of metal on pottery. This is where they oil you. There's a long wooden bench, wet and stained, with worn-down grooves where elbows and knees have pressed for decades, maybe centuries. A man waves you over. He's wiry, with forearms that look like rope, and he holds a flask of olive oil, like a priest with holy water. You lie down. There's no asking. You just are. The oil comes first poured in a slow ribbon across your shoulders. It's thick, warm, and slightly grassy, like freshly mowed summer slipping down your back. Then more on your arms, your chest, your thighs. He spreads it with practiced palms. There's nothing seductive about it. It's functional, mechanical, but intimate in a way you didn't expect. And then comes the strigil, cold metal on hot skin. It drags with a hiss, peeling away sweat, oil, and whatever pride you still had clinging to you. It's not painful, not exactly, but it scrapes your sense of self down to the bone. Your back arches involuntarily as he glides the curved blade along your spine, across your shoulder blades, down your arms. The sound is what gets you. A low squelch, like muddy boots being pulled from the earth. You'd laugh if you weren't too dazed. Mainstream historians praise the Romans for their hygiene rituals. This, they say, was about cleanliness, about exfoliation. But fringe scholars love to dig deeper, suggesting the oiling and scraping was a social performance, a subtle power play. Who oils whom? Who scrapes? Who watches? You're being watched. Not overtly, no one's leering, but you feel eyes. Someone behind a column, someone lounging with grapes, someone pretending not to see you while seeing everything. Your bare back, your flushed cheeks, your legs twitching slightly as the strigil glides across your calves. There's something theatrical about this, like you've stepped into a ritual too old to question. The oil itself is worth a small fortune. pressed from imported olives, sometimes mixed with crushed rose petals or ash from sacred woods. It smells faintly of pepper and resin. You imagine some perfumed senator boasting about his personal oil blend, as if it were vintage wine. Historians still argue whether the most expensive oils were actually reserved for the richer, if, in bathhouses like this, even slaves could briefly share the same scent. Your neck is next. The strigil curves around your collarbone, scooping out the last of your resistance. It leaves behind a sheen, a glisten that makes you feel less like a person and more like a statue fresh from the forge. There's a jar near your head. Clay, chipped, streaked with old residue. Inside is a mixture of sand and pumice. Some patrons opt for that instead, a dry scrub for rougher skin. You don't. Not tonight. Your nerves are already melting like wax on a torch. The man scraping you pauses, wipes the strigil on a cloth, examines it, then leans close and mutters something in Latin. You don't catch the words, but the tone is kind, almost apologetic, as if he's seen something in you, or through you. You're done. He taps your shoulder. You sit up slowly, your limbs responding like rusted hinges. Your skin tingles. It's raw, not wounded but exposed. You smell like olives and heat, and faintly, strangely, like pine smoke. You move toward the next room on instinct, like water following a groove. A breeze from the tepidarium drifts in just enough to make the sweat cool on your arms. It prickles, makes you aware of every pore, every fold, every old bruise and scar. That same woman from earlier, the one with the dolphin tattoo, standing near the archway. She's drying her arms with a cloth and watching you with a gaze too steady to ignore. You meet her eyes just long enough to feel something flicker. Recognition? Appraisal? Or just shared weariness? She disappears behind a veil of reeds before you can decide. As you step over the threshold into the next space, the floor beneath you changes, no longer aggressively hot, but pleasantly warm, like sitting on sunlit stone. The strigil man returns to his seat, pouring fresh oil into a new bowl for the next guest. And just when you think your body can't be scrubbed anymore, a sudden weight hits your stomach. Hunger. It comes out of nowhere, curling in like a forgotten debt. That oil? It didn't just lubricate your skin, it whet your appetite. But first, you rest, tepid water ahead, a lull before whatever comes next. And just as you lean against the warm edge of the next pool, you hear someone whisper behind you. They say the Emperor's son was scraped raw in this same room, for reasons no one dares record. The warmth here is quieter. You glide into the tepidarium, and it welcomes you like an old friend on with a warm lap and no questions asked. The heat isn't fierce like in the caldarium. It doesn't try to break you open. It cradles instead. The kind of temperature that coaxes your breath to slow, your shoulders to drop, your thoughts to blur. And your skin? After the oil and the strigil, it drinks this room like a desert sips dew. The marble floor here is dry, surprisingly, or at least drier than the others, polished, smoothed by decades of damp feet. You move carefully, your soles still tender from the earlier heat, leaving little half-moon prints behind you that vanish within seconds. It's quieter here too. Less movement. Fewer voices. The tepidarium is where people linger, where they listen. You feel that instantly. A long bench lines the far wall, and on it, a pair of older men playing some game with marked stones, eyes locked in gentle battle. They don't look up as you pass, but you feel them clock you all the same. There's a basin in the center, octagonal and still. Not quite for swimming, more for reclining. The water has a faint, milky cast oil residue from countless bathers, maybe, or something more deliberate. You sit at the edge and dip your fingers in. It's the exact temperature of your own skin, like sliding into yourself. Then you lower in, slow, neck deep, limbs unfurling. And for a long moment everything disappears. The chamber, the echo of sandals, even the weight of your own chest. You float not upward, but inward. The tepidarium was, historians believe, the social heart of the bathhouse. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for conversation, for lingering glances, for secrets said behind half smiles. It was also the favorite room of many Roman elites, who spent more time here than in the actual hot baths. And one theory posits that this preference wasn't just about comfort. It was about control, the ability to remain collected, unflushed, unbroken. Someone glides into the pool beside you. You hear only the ripple, the soft inhale. A woman. Maybe the same one from earlier, her presence now familiar, like a song you've half remembered. She doesn't speak, just rests against the far wall, eyes closed, shoulders under. Your own body has started to feel distant. Not numb exactly, but detached, like you're borrowing it. You try to move a finger, and it responds, but it takes effort. The water holds you. It forgives your weight. That ache in your knees? Muted. The sting of earlier heat? Gone. Above you, the ceiling arches in pale stone, painted with fading scenes of nymphs bathing under grapevines. One of them has lost her face to time, just a pale oval remains, like a mask wiped clean. The others grin with wine-drowsy delight. One clutches a branch of ivy, the leaves curling toward her painted breast. And here's the odd partone of the vines from the ceiling mural has a real shadow. You blink. A real leaf. No, just clever carving. Someone long ago took care to blend illusion with architecture. Rome was good at that. A servant walks by, silent as breath, carrying a tray with small ceramic cups infused water, maybe wine. He offers you one with a nod. You sip without thinking. It tastes faintly of dates and fennel, cold, crisp, and almost medicinal. Your lips tingle afterward, but in a pleasant way. Fringe scholars have suggested that subtle herbs were sometimes used in the tepidarium to relax the guests. Not poison, not drugs, just gentle agents meant to lower defenses, to prepare the body for whatever came next. Not everyone agrees, of course, but the idea lingers, much like this drink now tingling down your throat. You let your head fall back against the stone edge. The room is pulsing with silence, the kind that isn't empty but full of unsaid things, of heat-borne thoughts, of fingers brushing beneath the surface. And you notice something. Along the edge of the pool are marks, not decorative etched. Names, symbols, tally marks. You trace one with your thumb. It's shaped like a stylized bird. Another nearby resembles a wave. You wonder who carved them. Guests, attendants, ghosts. They say every bathhouse had its own language. Not spoken, not written, gestured. A flick of the eyes, a certain way of folding a towel, even the direction you turned as you entered a chamber. These things meant something. Not to the city, but to those who came seeking more than warmth. A murmur now from across the water. The two older men have stopped playing and are in quiet conversation. One glances over his shoulder. Toward you, or someone behind you. You can't tell. And just as the tension begins to stretch a thread between glances, the kind that hums before it snaps, you hear it. A cough, deliberate, followed by footsteps. A figure enters. Draped in linen, hair tied back with a gold ring. Not nobility, but not servant either. Someone of means. He moves with certainty, barefoot, arms loose at his sides. He doesn't look around. He doesn't need to. And everyone shifts barely, subtly. The atmosphere changes, like a current rolling through still water. You can't explain it, but you feel it. The man steps into the pool, 3 paces away, and leans back with a sigh that echoes too loud. Someone important, or someone dangerous, probably both. You glance to your side, the woman is gone. Just a ripple remains where she sat, no sound, no exit. And just as your mind begins to chase her shadow, you hear the whisper again. Not words this time, just breath. You rise. The pool releases you reluctantly, like dough returning to shape. Your skin shimmers in the lantern light, oil and water refracting gold. You pad across the floor slowly, passing under an arch painted with dolphins leaping over stylized waves. And just as your fingers brush the arch, the tiles cool slightly beneath your feet, and the sound of distant splashing filters in a colder, sharper music. It's time for the plunge. The cold hits like a betrayal. One moment, you're warm, still aglow from the tepidarium's gentle embrace, and the next, it's as if 1,000 tiny knives tap across your skin. Not slicing, just reminding you, urgently, that you're alive, that your nerves still work, that your heart has to beat faster now, or you might just stop. Welcome to the frigidarium. The room is stark, clean, almost monastic. The steam has vanished, and in its place, sharp, dry air that feels like it's been waiting for you specifically. It slithers across your damp body, coaxing goosebumps to rise, and settles around your temples with a chill you taste, like stone and mint and very old copper. The cold plunge pool lies ahead, a perfect rectangle of still water, dark as obsidian and just as reflective. No ripples, no sound. It's not just cold, it's silent. You stand at the edge, hesitating. Your knees creak. They don't want this, but you step forward anyway. The shock is instant. Water wraps you in ice-coated silk, pulling you under before you can flinch. You surface with a gasp, throat tight, lungs unsure. The cold doesn't stab, it locks. It presses, like a firm hand over your heart. Your fingers tingle, your scalp clenches. Even your jaw seems to forget how to move. And yet, you don't leave, because beneath the panic is clarity, razor sharp. The kind of wakefulness you've never felt from coffee or alarm clocks. This is what Romans chased. The jolt that separates thought from body. The forced reset, the sensory cliff dive. It's awful and perfect. You float barely, and every inch of skin is electric. The ceiling above is lower here, domed and painted in stark geometric patterns. They spiral in dizzying layers, pulling your eyes toward a central circle where, oddly, a fish has been painted upside down. Scholars still debate the reason. Some say it was a symbol for rebirth. Others say the artist was drunk. You hold that thought like a lifeline while the water continues its quiet war with your bloodstream. Two other bathers join you on dives cleanly. The other tumbles with a slap and a shriek. You exchange tight, frozen grins. There's camaraderie and shared suffering. Always has been. The frigidarium, historians agree, served both a physical and symbolic purpose. It closed the pores, sealed in the cleansing. But it also marked a return, a threshold. Heat had stripped you bare cold, now remakes you. But it wasn't just about physiology. This was the gossip chamber, the whisper chamber. You couldn't move much, so you talked. You looked. You lingered, teeth chattering, yes but ears wide open. A voice cuts through the stillness now. Low, rich, familiar. That boy, someone murmurs. The one from the senator's villa was seen again. In the caldarium, with his back bruised purple. You pretend not to hear, but your body listens. The way your chest tightens, the way your fingers press into the ledge, the way your eyes lock on the strange fish above. You aren't alone in eavesdropping. Another bather shifts closer to the voice, subtle as a shadow. In a place like this, secrets cling to stone like mildew. They survive the scrub, the oil, even the plunge. Fringe historians, those who study the margins of Roman records, love this part. They say the bathhouse was where everything happened. Affairs, betrayals, blackmail. The frigidarium was ideal. Cold enough to sober drunks, quiet enough to catch words unguarded, dark enough to hide a flinch. You look to the pool's far end. A niche in the wall holds a statue. Venus, arms broken, torso stained from years of condensation. She stares past you, blank and uncaring, as if she's heard too much. Maybe she has. You climb out slowly. Your feet slap wet stone. A towel is pressed into your hands by a boy with downcast eyes. He doesn't speak, but his fingers are trembling colder than yours. The towel is coarse, the kind that scratches more than it dries. It leaves your skin red, streaked, reborn. And under that discomfort is something else. Pride. You did it. You survived the plunge. You are, at least by Roman standards, very slightly harder than you were before. Just then, a door creaks behind you. Wide, heavy, wood, braced with bronze. It opens to a corridor dimly lit by oil lamps, each flame wavering like a candle caught mid-breath. Someone beckons, and that's when you hear it, laughter. Rich, slow, and a little too knowing. It echoes faintly down the corridor, the kind of laugh that doesn't need a joke, the kind that says you're about to see something you probably shouldn't. You move toward it, because of course you do. And just as your shoulders dry and the last drops trickle down your spine, you step into a space that smells of incense and something far more curious. Is that beeswax? And is that music? The cold is gone now, left behind like a second skin. Ahead, the lights flicker, and behind velvet drapes and painted gods, the bathhouse begins to show its true face. The air thickens again, but it's not from heat this time. It's from incense sweet, smoky, and just a little too strong. The scent of myrrh, honeyed resin, and crushed cypress needles curls into your lungs like silk dipped in shadow. You cough once, quietly. The passage you've entered is narrower, dimmer, and lined with low-burning lamps that paint everything in a golden haze. Your towel slips a little. You don't fix it. This is the sacred hallway. Not officially, of course. No Roman law says so. But everyone treats it that way. Feet quiet, voices softer, eyes that don't meet yours. Because beyond this hallway, the bathhouse changes. Paintings begin to appear along the walls' frescoes, some crumbling at the edges, others still vivid enough to blush under. One shows Bacchus reclining amid a pile of limbs, his wine cup overflowing, his lips parted mid-laugh. Another shows women probably woman-dancing with satyrs in a field of poppies. Their faces are all turned upward, or away, and the alcoves begin. Little side chambers behind curtains, beads, or thin veils. Just enough to hide what's inside, but not enough to silence it. You hear whispers, breath, laughter. The low clink of bracelets on stone. You pass one and glimpse two silhouettes sewn seated, the other kneeling. Nothing graphic, nothing confirmed, but the image stamps itself on your thoughts. You pass another. The curtain flutters open for a moment. A figure leans forward and plucks a grape from a bowl with their teeth. They look straight at you. You look away. Historians still debate the purpose of these alcoves. Officially, they were meant for rest and privacy. A space to reflect, to cool down, to enjoy some light refreshments. But that's the official line. The truth, as always, lies in the missing records. In the knowing smiles painted on fading gods. In the absence of disapproval from the ruling class. Silence, in Rome, often meant permission. You stop in front of one alcove empty now, just cushions, a discarded sandal, a small goblet of wine still half full. The space smells like rose oil and sweat. You wonder how long ago someone was here. Minutes, hours, centuries? You press forward. Your footsteps make no sound. Even your breath feels too loud in this place. There's a statue at the end of the hallway. Not grand small, actually. Almost easy to miss. A youthful Hermes, leaning on his staff, grinning. Except his eyes are painted in. Not carved. Not inlaid. Painted. Two small black dots that have stared down centuries of hallway wanderers just like you. The effect is unnerving. Fringe researchers sometimes point to this statue as proof that this wing of the bathhouse served dual purposes. Body and temptation. The painted eyes, they argue, were a warning. Or a joke. Or maybe just a reminder. You're being watched, even when you forget to care. You duck beneath another curtain. This chamber is larger. High ceiling. Murals along every wall. Candlelight dances across painted bodies, some divine. Some definitely not. There's a central platform here, surrounded by reclining couches, each draped in silk that looks softer than any tunic you've ever worn. A low table holds platters of dates, walnuts, honey cakes some half-eaten. Clay goblets too, stained red from spiced wine. Someone has spilled a bit. The puddle is still fresh. You imagine the moment it happened. Laughter, a hand knocked sideways, the red drip spreading like ink. The bathhouse was supposed to be for hygiene, remember? But this room isn't about cleansing. It's about permission. The kind you don't speak aloud. The kind you feel in the small of your back. You lean against a warm pillar. The stone is smoother here, polished. Your fingers glide along the surface and find groove scratches. No, names, carved in different hands. Some large. Some looping. Some in Greek. Some in Latin. One, oddly, in something that looks like Hebrew. Rome was many things, but above all it was layered. Cultures piled atop each other like sand, blending into something new. And here, in this room, those layers mix freely. Nobles, slaves, artists, foreigners. You might share this space with someone who killed for a living, and someone who healed. And the art on the walls? It shifts as you stare. One scene shows a man with 3 women. Not vulgar, not crude, just entangled. Eyes closed, faces turned inward, a tapestry of limbs. Another shows a priestess pouring oil onto a soldier's chest. Her expression is unreadable. His is rapturous. Mainstream archaeologists label these as erotic studies. But it's the fringe voices who remind us. These images weren't just art, they were instruction, not in position, but in attitude, in surrender, in power. The whisper of fabric pulls your attention to a side alcove. Inside, a small fire flickers in a bronze bowl, not for warmth, for scent. Resin crackles, releasing a smoky perfume that smells of cloves and old books. A man sits near it, cross-legged, head bowed, meditating or waiting. You don't ask. You step past. He does not follow. And then, a sound. Music. Distant. A reed flute, maybe. Slow. Winding. Almost drunk. The notes curl into the chamber like tendrils. You follow without meaning to. Past another curtain. Through another veil. Until the light dims again. You're not alone. Someone speaks. Not to you. Not in Latin. Just soft syllables directed at no one. A chant, maybe. Or a poem. You feel it in your chest before your ears make sense of it. And then, just when you think the moment has stretched too far, when your nerves begin to hum again like in the caldarium someone laughs. A short burst. Playful. Close. You don't turn around. You walk forward. Through another curtain. Another layer. And suddenly, it's not music that surrounds you. It's feasting. You smell it before you see it. Roasted figs. Honeyed almonds. A kind of soft, sour cheese wrapped in warm leaves. The aromas fold around each other, thick and slow, like silk scarves drifting in molasses. Your stomach grumbles loudly, and for once, no one pretends not to hear. This is the triclinium, or what passes for one inside the bathhouse. A space for reclining, for nibbling, for letting the boundaries between dining and dreaming blur. The marble here is warm, thanks to hidden pipes beneath the floor, and it seems to pulse underfoot like the walls themselves are digesting. You pad across the tiles toward a low platform surrounded by couches. Not chairs, never chairs. That would suggest structure. This is Rome. You lounge. You lean. You drape. A boy with a shaved head and golden ankle cuffs offers you a plate of pomegranate seeds and a piece of spiced flatbread so thin it melts on your tongue. You take both, because resisting isn't just pointless, it's discouraged. The room is dim, lit only by recessed oil lamps. The flames flicker orange, stretching the shadows of diners into elongated phantoms across the floor. The illusion makes it feel as though this feast has been happening forever, and you've just finally arrived to claim your place. You recline awkwardly, not used to this position. One elbow digging into a too soft cushion, your knees bent, your toes curling slightly on the warm stone. You try to look casual. You fail. But no one is watching you. Not exactly. They're watching each other. This isn't just about food. It's about observation, about placing yourself just right casually draped, half lit, half covered. A knee here, a shoulder there. It's theatre. And you? You're part of the audience and the act. Someone plays a cithara in the corner, plucked notes rising like smoke, delicate and slightly off-key. Nearby, a woman feeds a fig to her companion by pressing it gently to his lips with the back of her hand. He doesn't open his mouth. He lets the fruit fall. Mainstream historians call this a light meal area. The fringes, they call it a test, a performance space. They note how certain guests were seated closer to the inner sanctum, how others were offered more food, more wine. The bathhouse, they say, wasn't a democratic Eden. It was a stage for favour and power. You shift again, and the cushion beneath you sighs. Literally, air escapes from a split seam. Someone laughs. Not at you, thankfully, just at something whispered nearby. But the sound dances close enough to your ear that your skin flushes with warmth. Or maybe that's the wine. Ah yes, the wine. A cup appears beside you, dark clay, warm in your hand. The surface is scratched with ivy leaves and dancing hairs. You take a sip. It's spiced cinnamon and something more floral, like crushed violets and firewood. It burns just enough to make your gums tingle. Historians still argue whether bathhouse feasts like these were commonplace or reserved for elite occasions. Some excavations reveal built-in banqueting spaces. Others hint at temporary installations, suggesting pop-up feasts tied to festivals or visiting dignitaries. Either way, it's clear. Romans knew how to blur the line between leisure and luxury. And then, the unexpected. A drop of wine hits your chest. You look up. The man across from you smirks, his goblet tipped slightly too far. He says nothing, just raises his brow as if to say, "Well?" You laugh softly. Because why not? That same grape you chewed earlier is still tart on your tongue. Your body is sticky with heat and oil. But here, that stickiness feels fitting, like you're supposed to glisten. A tray is past-grilled songbirds with lemon. A delicacy. Possibly illegal, possibly not. The laws shift, and besides, no one here is taking notes, except maybe you, mentally, with wide eyes. Next, a bowl of walnuts soaked in honey and crushed fennel, then oysters, then goat cheese molded into little facetiums smiling, some grimacing. You pick one at random and bite into its left cheek. Salty, soft, perfect. And now, the games begin. Not dice or cards, nothing so coarse. These are games of innuendo. The way someone passes you a fig with their pinky extended just so. The way someone else licks wine from the rim of their cup while watching another guest pretend not to look. It's flirting as warfare. It's diplomacy soaked in nectar. The woman from earlier return statue glinting under the lamplight. She doesn't sit, just leans against a column, sipping from a slender glass, her gaze scanning the room like a panther bored of its own cage. And just when you found a comfortable, rhythmful glance, mouthful, sigh aloud thud echoes through the space. A man stumbles backward from one of the couches, arms out, laughing too hard. His tunic slips from one shoulder, revealing a long scar down his chest. Everyone pauses, not in horror, in curiosity. He straightens, composes himself, bows exaggeratedly, and is offered a towel by someone you're pretty sure is not a servant. Moments later, the music resumes. The laughter flows again, like water finding its groove. The man is forgotten, or remembered differently. This, too, is Rome. You've eaten your fill. More than your fill. Your limbs are heavy, your mind is syrup slow. And just as you begin to recline deeper into your cushion, a hand brushes your shoulder, not threatening, not familiar. "Time," someone whispers. For what, they don't say. You stand, because you must. You leave the room behind. The warmth, the scents, the flickering faces and glistening wine. And just as you step beyond the golden light, your shadow falls across the threshold of a much darker door guarded by someone whose arms could crack your ribs with a shrug. He doesn't speak. You nod, and he lets you in. The doorway swallows you in silence. There's no fanfare, no music, no perfumed air. Just a sudden drop in sound, in light, in the very pressure of the room around you. It's like walking into a vault carved from shadow. The warmth of the triclinium evaporates behind you, replaced by something heavier. Not cold, exactly. Just still. And then you see him. The man leaning against the far wall isn't just large. He's impossible. Shoulders like stacked amphorae. Forearms corded with scars, tattoos, and time. His chest is bare, save for a leather strap crossing diagonally. His jaw is squared like it was carved from leftover marble at the Colosseum. He doesn't say a word. Doesn't need to. This is the Watchman. Every bathhouse had one, especially the more luxurious ones. A kind of bouncer meets bodyguard meets confessor. This one? Former gladiator. You'd bet your last denarius on it. You can tell from the cauliflowered ear, the flattened nose, the way he doesn't move but sees everything. Fringe scholars like to point out how little is written about these men. Maybe because most people didn't want to record what they saw, or what they asked to be forgotten. But the rumors survived. The watchman saw the deals, the bruises, the silk pouches passed under robes. And sometimes, when the need arose, they broke a few ribs to remind guests where the boundaries were. He gestures with a single finger. Not up, not down, just forward. You follow. The corridor beyond is narrow and lined with small alcoves, not like the lounging kind earlier. These are enclosed, personal, the kind you could bar from the inside. The kind used for one-on-one negotiations are worse. Each has its own lamp, kept low, casting long shadows that warp the shape of anyone inside. One door swings open behind you. You don't turn. Just keep walking. Eyes forward. That's how you survive this part. The smell here is different. Less floral. More leather. Wine. Old wool. A hint of metal. Like blood left too long in a goblet. You breathe through your mouth. The watchman stops at a heavy curtain. Red velvet. Frayed at the bottom. You know, instinctively, this isn't just decoration. It's a signal. What lies beyond isn't for the curious. It's for the invited. But he lets you in anyway. The room is smaller than expected. Low ceiling. Cushioned benches on 3 sides. A brazier in the center casting soft light upward, making everyone's faces look like masks melting from the bottom up. There are 4 people inside, all silent, all watching. No one offers you a seat. You choose one, slowly, and then someone speaks. You've seen enough of the water, the voice says, lilting with an accent you can't place. Now learn what it hides. A scroll is unrolled on the table. Not official, no seal, just crude drawings. A layout of the bathhouse, but with marking circles, slashes, arrows places where walls are thinner, where doors aren't supposed to exist, where certain benches conceal hollow spaces. Mainstream historians dismiss these as fiction, urban legends. But someone kept records. Someone mapped the bathhouse from within, for escape, or for control. One figure leans forward and places something on the table. A ring. Plain, gold, scratched. But its weight lands like thunder. The room stiffens. That's not just jewelry. That's proof. Of status. Of presence. Of what someone gave a Lozda. You're not sure why you were brought into this room. Maybe you were followed. Maybe you passed some invisible test. Maybe you're the distraction while someone else makes a move in another wing. Doesn't matter. You're here now, and the watchman still hasn't blinked. They talk around you. Not to you. Code words, nicknames, euphemisms that might be jokes or might be death threats. The boy with the violet stain, the chamber with no echo, the senator's daughter who left wearing someone else's shoes. You listen. Because to speak now would be to interrupt ritual. This isn't bathhouse politics. This is something deeper. The heartbeat under the marble. Someone offers you a drink. It's thick, not wine. You sip, because refusal is ruder than ignorance. It tastes of dates, ash, and something bitter that coats your tongue. Your lips go slightly numb. The conversation fades. Not because it ends, but because your mind begins to float. That drink was no ordinary cordial. It doesn't make you drunk, it makes you weightless. The walls feel farther away, the flames taller, your own limbs not quite yours. And just when the air grows too thick, someone claps once. The curtain opens. The gladiator steps aside, and you're ushered out gently but firmly. No words, no names, just the weight of the ring left behind, and the memory of eyes that never stopped watching. You step back into the corridor, back into sound, back into the hum of the bathhouse. And it hits you. Everything you saw in there, it won't be written down. Not in marble, not in ink. But it lives here, in the water, in the stone, in the silence behind every laugh. And just as your foot brushes the next tile, a boy rushes past carrying a towel stained faintly with blood. He doesn't stop, and neither do you. The room hums before you see it. It's not the kind of hum you hear, it's the kind you feel. In your chest, in your teeth. A low, vibrating awareness that something important, or dangerous, or absurd is about to happen. You pass through a final archway and find yourself back where you started, almost. But everything feels different, because now you know the bathhouse's pulse. You floated in its steam, scraped your skin down to memory, eaten from its table, and passed through its velvet-wrapped heart. You know where the corridors bend without warning. You know where the silence thickens, and now, Now you're here with him. You blink. You blink again. Because he's real. That's really him. The Emperor. Not in armor, not flanked by guards, not seated on some gilded throne, but naked, or close to it. Draped in a towel that's too short and too confident, walking slowly toward the plunge pool with 2 attendants at his sides. You expected grandeur. Trumpets, maybe. At least a little polished fanfare. But no, just a man. Slightly sunburned shoulders. A gut that speaks of too many honeyed dates, and yet every step he takes shifts the room. You feel it. A senator, halfway through a whispered confession, falls instantly silent. A pair of merchants sitting cross-legged by a brazier suddenly stand. A slave stops mid-stride and freezes, eyes on the floor. No one announces him. He doesn't need that. Power, in Rome, walks without permission. You lower your gazano because you're scared, but because your body does it for you. Reflex, like ducking before a slap. You hear the splash of water. He's entered the frigidarium. You know that chill. You still feel it in your bones. But he shows no sign, no flinch. Just a sharp breath through the nose and then stillness. That same cold, dark pool that made you gasp now holds the ruler of the empire. Your head spins a little at that. This is Rome. Everything is shared. Baths, water, heat, but not equally. Never equally. Mainstream records often depict emperors as aloof, distant, only rarely mingling with the public. But bathhouse scrolls and mosaics those unofficial records tell a different story, one of sightings, of rumors, of towel slips and sharp glances that shifted entire policies. And the fringe scholars? They point to a recurring detail. The emperor in the bath, receiving no salute, no bow, but averted gazes and subtle gesturies, an empire of deference built not on ceremony, but on presence. You glance back toward the cold pool. He's speaking now, casually, to a younger man whose expression is all nerves and pride. An heir? A cousin? A favored guest for the day? Whatever the relation, the young man keeps nodding, listening, and never not once meeting the emperor's eyes. The towel slips lower, and suddenly you understand something so obvious, it stuns you. Power strips too. It bathes. It sweats. It itches in scratchy tunics and grumbles when the marble is too cold. Power has body odor. Hangnails. Bad posture when reclining too long on one elbow. But that doesn't make it less powerful. If anything, it makes it more dangerous. Because when the emperor walks among you naked, without fear, that's when you remember, no one will touch him. Not here. Not now. Not ever. A splash behind you. You turn to see another bather entering the caldarium. Not special, not notable, but their presence shatters the spell. You exhale. Realize you've been holding your breath. The emperor rises. His attendants drape the towel. He walks past you so close, you smell the resin still clinging to his skin. And for the briefest, most bizarre second, you imagine reaching out. Not to stop him, not to harm, just to touch, to confirm he's real. A god in flesh. But of course you don't. You're not suicidal. He's gone. Vanished into a corridor that wasn't there a moment ago. The space around you fills again talk, movement, breath returning to bodies. You step away from the wall. Your calves ache. Your skin prickles where water still clings. You feel your own weight again. A boy walks past, muttering to himself. That was the second time this week, he says. They say he comes when the moon is high. You don't ask who they are. No one ever knows. You move through the chambers now like a ghost. The baths still buzz. Oil still gleams. Laughter still rings from behind half-closed veils. But something has shifted. Not in the building. In you. You've seen the veil lift. You've watched the one man who isn't supposed to be human behave almost human. And somehow, that's more unsettling than if he'd floated into the pool glowing and winged. Your path leads you past the alcoves again. Most are empty now, or seem to be. A few flicker with soft candlelight. You hear one last sigh. Or maybe that's the hiss of steam behind a wall. And then back to the atrium. The floor sparkles in places where water has pooled. A sandal lies abandoned near the edge. A whisper of rosemary clings to the air. mingling with the ever-present sour ghost of chamber pots nearby. You smile at the smell. Familiar now, almost comforting, like your scratchy towel or the dull ache in your thighs. Everything has a scent here, even memory. Just before the last corner, a merchant stops you. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asks, not waiting for an answer. It means luck, you know, seeing him without guards. You nod once, politely, meaninglessly. He grins. Or doom, depends who you ask. He walks on, chuckling to himself. You step into the hallway where the moonlight touches the farthest wall. And just as your foot meets the cool tile, you hear the faintest splash again. Another body. Another day. And above it, all the softest sound of a towel hitting the floor. You should be leaving. You should be stepping back into your sandals, reaching for your scratchy tunic, re-entering the Roman streets with their clattering carts and vinegar-smelling gutters. But your feet have other plans. They lead you instead toward one final corridorone the attendants pretend not to see. There's no sign, no mosaic, no beckoning statue of Neptune or Venus to ease your passage. Just a narrow archway with soot stains across the lintel and a tiny iron bell hanging from a cord. And the bell is ringing. Not loudly, just gently. A slow, irregular tink, 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 like wind brushing through bones. You duck inside. The light here is blue, somehow. Reflected from somewhere unseen, it casts everything in hues of twilight and deep water. Even your own skin takes on a bruised tint. The air smells faintly of beeswax and old smoke. This is the closing chamber. No one told you about it, and yet everyone seems to know it's here. The bathhouse breathes through this room its last sigh before sleep. A place to dry, to listen, to forget. The benches are stone again, but covered in thin linens, their edges curling with age. You sit. Your spine protests. Your feet are heavy. Your pulse is quiet. And for the first time, no one joins you. You're alone, utterly, finally. There's a basin in the corner filled with cold lavender water. You splash your face. The sting is sharp, but clean, as if each droplet is whispering, "You've done enough. It's time." Above the basin hangs a small circular mirror, bronze, clouded. You catch your reflection, and for a second, you don't recognize the person staring back. The bathhouse has aged you, or stripped something off. Or maybe it's just shown you what's always been underneath. Historians have almost nothing to say about this room, perhaps because it was sacred, or simply forgotten. But some fringe sources suggest that every bathhouse had a space like this, a final threshold, a soft landing before the world resumed its noise. You lean back. Let your muscles go slack. The last of the heat leaves your skin in waves, as though saying goodbye. You realize that your ears are ringing not from the bell but from the absence of anything else. And then, a soft breeze. Not real, not possible, but it brushes your cheek like a farewell kiss. You smile. Maybe. You're not sure anymore. One last time. Your hand finds the mosaic edge of the bench. Smooth. Familiar. You trace a pattern-rown final nymph. Her eyes faded, but her laughter carved into the curve of her arm. Your breath slows. Somewhere in the distance, water drips. A chamber pot rattles. A slave sighs. The bathhouse begins to dim, as if even the walls are growing sleepy. The light flickers. The warmth pulls back like a tide. You rise. Slowly. Your towel clings. Your feet remember each tile. And just as you reach the outer door, the final one, the one that will return you to street sounds and sandal blisters and whatever life you left behind, you stop. You glance back, and for one heartbeat, the entire bathhouse seems to watch you. Not with malice, not even with curiosity, but with the quiet patience of something very, very old. Something that has seen emperors rise, lovers collide, whispers bloom and die, and still offers its steam the next day. The bell rings one last time. Tintinnabulum, and you step out. The night air greets you like a cool sheet pulled over tired legs. Your feet meet the cobbled stone with a softness that surprises you, as if you've forgotten how hard the world could be. The sounds of Rome are muffled now distant carts, murmuring taverns. sandals slapping the road like lazy applause. But your body still carries the rhythm of the bathhouse, heat and hush, water and echo. You pass by a shuttered stall, smell roasted chestnuts, hear a cat knock something off a ledge far above. You look up, but you're not really looking anymore, not with your eyes. The towel still clings to your waist. It smells faintly of olive oil and ash. You'll wash it later, or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll fold it carefully and leave it near your bed, as if some part of you might return by morning. Your fingers twitch, remembering the scrape of the strigil. Your lips tingle faintly from the spiced wine. Your ears still hold the echo of a laugh in a chamber no one speaks of. And your chest, it feels lighter, as if the weight you arrived with has been left somewhere in a cloud of steam, tucked behind a mosaic, passed through an alcove, forgotten in a basin of lavender. The city may never know what happened to you tonight, but the bathhouse does. Its stones remember, its water remembers, and if you return tomorrow, or years from now, it will still be there, waiting, with its incense and marble and quiet, golden dark. So breathe deep. Let your limbs soften. Let your thoughts wander. Let the last candle go out. Your hands relax into the linen, the scent of wood smoke fades, and the tiles cool beneath your memory.